We few, we happy few, we band of brothers.
Well, hello and welcome along to another We Happy Few 506 podcast, subtitled The Nearly Men. I think I'm probably going to be by myself today. I might keep this one fairly shortish and put it out on Patreon, or I might just waffle on for 2 hours and put it out for the general public. I am joined today by a fellow podcast-e. What is the plural of podcaster? I don't know.
Podcaster? I don't know.
Okay. Fellow podcaster, Elliot James Langridge. Did I say that correctly?
Elliot James Langridge, yeah, that's it.
Excellent.
You got it. You bang on.
Yeah, I noticed that you have some really nice paneling behind you.
It's all real.
Yeah, it's all real. Yeah, it looks good. It looks like it's going to go up, and then a stormtrooper is going to crack its head on it.
Yeah, not a garage door, as you said earlier. It does actually. Now that you said it, I might have to change it because that's all I can see.
Yeah, I'm not trying to throw you off here. Just managed to swallow a lemon, Pip. So Leighton hooked us up with you. And would you like me to tell you the breakdown of how he described you?
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so he put Elliot James Langridge, podcaster, dreamweaver, visionary plus actor. How much is true?
They're all true, obviously. Dreamweaver. I'll take it.
You'll take and peacemaker.
Yeah.
What should we dive into first? I guess we should dive into the podcast. I sort of did some research. I like to sort of like learn about people as we go along, but I also like to do a bit of research. God bless Garth Marenghi for the inspiration. Oh, okay, it's a Dark Place thing. That's Leighton's just put that up. The podcast looks good, man. Really good. Do you want to tell us when you got started and tell us a bit about it, and I'll interject?
Yeah, so it came out of frustration, really. It was, one of those lockdown things where people were just going nuts, and I was just thinking what I'm going to do. And, no one was working. I wasn't getting any auditions, and I was just going a bit mad. So I just decided to try and do it. And I remember telling my girlfriend, and she was like, yeah, you kind of need a reason. Like, what's it going to be about? What's it going to be? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to start with my mates, people I've worked with in the film industry, and just have a chat about their careers and see how it goes. And to be honest, the structure hasn't really changed much since then. But it is essentially a podcast about, those first few stepping stones. If you're in the film industry, if you're a producer, director, actor, writer, whatever it is, makeup, costume, and just chatting about, how it all began. And, you realize that there's a lot of luck, a lot of moments like, sliding doors moments, things like that. And hopefully there's a lot of like, fun stories, and, it's one for the film buffs as well. So it was just a way for me to nerd out and be able to talk about films, and also get to chat to people and meet people that, otherwise I'd never get to sit down with, 45 to an hour. And I've been very lucky. I've spoken to a lot of, actors and directors I've looked up to over the years, and yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Dive into that because there's some guys I was like, seriously, he interviewed that dude? Seriously?
Yeah, I know, it's mad.
But it is a good resource for an actor, isn't it? Like, there's certain actors that I know that I've worked with who are just like, I can't want to do a podcast, but I don't know. And I'm just like, do it. Like, I do it. And it has lots of benefits. Firstly, it's a discipline that you work towards. Well, I don't know how many you do a week, but I do one a week. It's a discipline you work towards. You learn to sort of, I don't know, it gets the creative juices flowing. But what it does is it turns off or turns on the pressure valve a little bit. So you just, that thing that's driving you nuts gets released on a Sunday evening for me. Do you know what I mean? I get to sort of like dip my feet into stuff and make stuff up and do stupid jokes and that kind of stuff. But I think for an actor, it's a really cool thing to do, just to sort of get that sort of almost like pent up nervous energy out and focused into something that has a very real end that you can be pleased with, that you can actually do a good job of, that you have control over, which is the thing. And maybe we'll dive into that. deeply as we go on, but the thing you lack as an actor is control.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, that is the most frustrating thing about it, really, I guess. And you still like with the podcast, you still don't have much control. Like I realized quite early on that it was just a way to bring more no's into my life. You know,
Right.
I was sending emails and everyone was going, nah, no, no. And I was like, why have I done this to myself? But then over the years, I'm sure you found the same thing. You've got, a lot of people listen to yours. It kind of slightly gets easier, and then you do get gratification. People actually are listening to this, they're enjoying it. You get feedback, all the feedback that you're missing as an actor, um, you get in some way, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's like you're smacking your head against a brick wall for a while, and then you'll get somebody, and that's will lead to somebody because they'll be like, "Hey, you should get on." Is my buddy, and they'll go with you there. It's like two or three in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's smacking your head against the brick wall a little bit to get guys on as well. I mean, it helps with what we do because, like, I was in Band of Brothers, and then I know people who are in the Pacific, and then we've got Masters of the Egg, and those casts are massive.
Mm-hmm.
Once one comes in, we can keep getting more and more and more. Um, but you, I mean, do you just do it by yourself? Is it just you? Do you have like guys that help you? And I have Leighton, so he does all the headbanging. By the way, I'm not pretending I do any of that.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'm gonna have to pick your brains about it because I'm a one man band. I learned to edit to do it, which
Oh,
was an absolute nightmare. But now, like, you do 200 episodes, you're like, yeah, I know how to do this now.
yeah.
Yeah, so I do it all, but I am looking to try and get a team around me now that it's doing better and it's getting more views and everything else, and maybe that's something we can go into. I'd be like, how did
Well, honestly, to be honest with you, I did look more deeply than I'm pretending. I pretend to be lazy, but I'm not deeply neurotic. I did look at what you were doing, and I thought he would be a great person to collaborate with
you?
among
Oh,
like a joint thing because I think our dual resources would be really, really good. And how old are you, by the way?
I'm 30. I have to think about that for a second. 37.
Okay, good, because it's
Yeah.
actually young on the show as well. So me nodding out by 8 o'clock sometimes. But that would be really cool to pull resources and see what we could get going.
100%, man. I've listened to a couple of your episodes as well, and it's always really interesting to you see how other people do it. And I think a lot of podcasts are really structured and really kind of like, this is what we're going to do now, and this is what we're going to do here. But what I like about yours, mainly because it's kind of what I do as well, it's relaxed, it's a chat, it's natural. People aren't putting on a show. It's kind of, you're just chatting naturally. And I think that's where you get the most out of people, where it's kind of like, people, especially with actors, people want to kind of feel like they're getting to know them for real.
Yeah,
Um, and I
of the,
think that's what's special about your podcast as
the
well.
worst ones that you listen to, I'm a huge rugby nut, like I'm a rugby norse. The worst ones you listen to are when it's a good podcast. Generally, there's three or four really good rugby podcasts, and then suddenly one of their mates has said, the best bit about your podcast is just your banter and you being funny. And then they start hamming that up. It's like painful to listen to. You just try to be funny. It's like, oh, God, can you just talk about rugby, please?
Yeah. There is a fine line for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning I did try and do it with a couple of my mates as well, and then it just one of my mates, Jake, who's an actor as well. We were talking to a guy called Kevin McNally, who was in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He's the one with the mutton chops. He's in all of them, but he's done a lot of other stuff. And we were chatting to him, and my mate made some comment about we were talking about a turkey at Christmas, and he was like, "Yeah. When you like get balls deep into the turkey at Christmas," I was like, "That's not." That's not a saying when you're talking about eating a turkey. And Kevin Minali picked up
Yeah,
on it. It was like, sorry, what?
as prison, yeah.
I was like, I think I'm gonna do this on my own from now on.
I know, yeah. It's the mate you have no control over with no filter. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be gold, and there were some great moments. But then, yeah, to be honest, to do it on your own, you can do it whenever you want. It's a bit more, again, it's more control and everything else. So I just ended up doing that in the end. But it was good comic value while it lasted.
And so you started during COVID.
Yeah, starting COVID, so we're on our fifth season now. it's mad how time flies. How long have you been doing yours then? Because yours
Uh,
popped up. I remember seeing something about it quite a while ago. I think when I did a film called what the fuck was it called?
is it the World War I film?
Yeah.
Because write it down.
Yeah.
I have
War,
written.
no, because they changed the title so many times, I can never remember what they actually called it.
How
The
close
War Below. The War Below. It was called Clay Kickers, and then it was called something else. Um, yeah, I did a film called The War Below, and I can't remember what the connection was because it was ages ago. But I remember there was some sort of clip or something where you were talking about because obviously you talk to a lot of people, as you say, from Band of Brothers, from like all these war films and war series and stuff. And I can't remember what the connection was, but something around that time of release where someone put me onto your podcast. So
Okay.
I think maybe just because they were like, "Oh, you did this film, you might be interested in this." But yeah, man. So you've been doing it a while, haven't you?
Yeah, and yeah, they probably put you onto it because we were probably talking about that sort of thing. I mean, we flip from actors to historians, and we
Mm.
try and keep the flint of it is we try and keep like the historical stuff. We delve into that as much as we can. We do tours as well. We've just done a Masters of the Air tour, and before that, we were over in Belgium, and we opened this memorial and all this stuff. So that's what keeps us
Oh,
sort of
cool.
grounded and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was the strangest origin story. Years and years and years ago, I was on a tour in Belgium, I think, and I met this guy, and he was like, do you want to come for the Nuts Festival? Which I didn't really understand what it was. It's usually around December 18th, I think,
Mm.
and it celebrates the whole General McAuliffe nuts when the paratroopers were surrounded story, of being asked to surrender. And I went there and I was doing a signing, and this fella came up to me and he's like, "All right, what?" And I was like, "All right." He's like, "We're friends online." I was like, "Oh, okay." And it was Leighton, who was the producer on this, and he was a cool guy, so I just had him like hang. We were hanging around for most of the day and everything, and then he runs something called Currahee Signings, where he gets he's mostly Band of Brothers guys, like their headshots and stuff, and he just puts it out there and says who wants a signed copy of it.
Mm.
People say, yeah, I'll take one, and he just turns up on their doorstep with a stack full of signed copies, sign them, and they pay for it, and which is it's really cool because it gets skint actors paid. Um,
Yeah.
but he came up to North Yorkshire where I was to do something like that, and I was like, yeah, is that all they want? Is they just want my signature?
Mm.
Um, and so I was like, you know what we could do if we do something like that again? I could maybe do it on Zoom because we were starting to go into lockdown then. We were
Mm.
just talking. I was like, we could do it where we go into like a Zoom chat room, and then somewhere from there that spiraled into let me see if I can get the cast together, and I can interview them and I'll host it.
Mm.
And what we were doing then was we were doing all the episodes of Band of Brothers. We started with episode 6, and we had watched the Platoon doc, but okay. Um, uh, and we managed to get the director on and the two of the main actors in it. And it just, once we'd gone through that, once we'd gone through all the Band of Brothers, we'd gone through some of the Pacific, that was
Mm.
a disaster because they all came on the same podcast. So then
Oh God.
yeah, it's like we wanted like 3 guys and they all just had a reunion and they were just talking over one another. And then we decided to just do, and at first it was just me, and I do have a co-host. He's on a flight at the moment, but yeah, it just spiraled from there, and it's the maddest thing. I'll just board a ferry at Dieppe, and the guy checking people in will be like your podcast, man. It's the craziest thing. Yeah, but I like it. It keeps me sort of like, well, no, lets me waffle. But that's what we've gone from there, and we do tours and all sorts of stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's like the next level up where I want to get to. I'm gonna have to keep in touch, just pick your brains about how you kind of, yeah, that. And I feel like a lot of people have started podcasts. I know people that have done it, and
Yeah,
they've like, oh, it didn't work out or whatever. But I feel like the key, like I found, I don't know what you think, but just to keep going, because
yeah,
whenever you said earlier, like you get someone and you go, oh, that's a boost, and then you feel like it's waiting for that next person that is a really good episode, or it's a big name that draws people in, or whatever it is. um and it is just like to keep going, even if there's some downtimes in it. You just got to keep, it's like acting, isn't it, I guess.
yeah. And I tell you who are an amazing resource, and that is YouTubers. So we
Mm.
had 2 or 3, well, more than that. but two or three really big YouTubers that come on our tour, big history YouTubers, and
Mm.
they are like the opposite of actors. Like they are the most encouraging, nurturing people. Like so, if you you know you reach out to people who've got YouTube channels and stuff, they just put links down. Hey, you should watch this. You should join this guy's Patreon and everything. They've really helped us.
Oh, wow.
But so Leighton just sent me a message. Did you do a live show? Do you do live shows?
Yeah, so we started doing them this year. We do with the first two that we've only done two, and we've done them both at Soho House,
Okay.
um, with an audience at Soho House 180. So it's quite a big room, and it's a beautiful view and everything else. So it's quite dramatic when you're there doing it live.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like obviously a slightly different beast, but it's still the same kind of thing. But it's always great to have, audience interaction, and then you can kind of do a Q&A and bring them into the questions and. Um, yeah, it's fun. What do you think of like, these I guess these tours that you go on and stuff, and can it be nerve-wracking?
Yes, it nerve-wracking from a lot of different perspectives. I actually, many years ago, again, it's a whole mad origin story there. I was in a lawyer's office for reasons I won't go into, and I flipped over a magazine. It was an aviation magazine, and on the back of it, it had Band of Brothers tours for the. I didn't know it was the World War II museum, but it was. And because I just broken up with my business partner, my business then was gone. I was like, I wonder whether they would want someone to consult on these tours or do anything. And I called the number, and within 10 seconds, James Madia, called me back. And was like, dude, you got to get on these things. So I did a few years of touring with the World War II Museum on these incredible tours. They're like 13 days, Holborn to the Eagle's Nest, and they're they're absolutely incredible. But they were very nerve wracking because basically every day or every other day you watch an episode, and then this the girl that I was traveling with would just hand me a microphone and go, now talk, and you're expected to talk for about an hour in front of a bus full of people.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it's one of those things that maybe you'll find in the future, or you found now, is that you what you what you should never rely on is that you do a Q&A and you'll get any sensible questions, or any questions that like aren't kind of daft or don't really lead anywhere. So you've got to know what you're talking about, and you've got to have like, it's like stand-up comedy, you never lead with new material. So have like a backlog of old material that you're going to talk about, and then maybe get some new stuff in and do a little bit of Q&A at the end. So after about 4 or 5 or 6 tours of that, I was starting to find my feet a little bit. And now when we do it, and I get up on the microphone and stuff, like I know what I'm doing, and I know how to like talk with people and interact with people. But the really cool thing about what we do with We Happy Few is that it's the same nerds keep showing up. Like it's like our buses are like, I don't know, 45, 50 people, and the same nerds show up every time. And there's like maybe a 10% flux, maybe there's 10% new people each time. So they know. So I can't tell any of my stories now because they'll be bored shitless. But they're really sort of easy to deal with. So it's more kind of one-on-one stuff that I do now. If I go back to doing Band of Brothers tours, or the next one we're planning is an SAS Rogue Heroes one, then I'll probably get yakking again. But I enjoy it. Like there's certain people, certain actors that you would think would be really good at stuff like that, and maybe would be really good in a podcast, and they're not. They're just like super quiet because naturally they're kind of shy, and
Yeah.
maybe, and then you get them up in front of people and they're brilliant.
Mm.
We had one of the actors on Band of Brothers who was in episodes 9 and 10, who played O'Keefe. So he's like the kid in it, kind of. And we had him come on our podcast. We were doing an episode 9 podcast, and on all the meetings we had beforehand, because we had to prep it really well because it was live, and I was crapping myself. It was going to be a disaster. All the meetings we had beforehand, I was like, this guy has had a personality lobotomy. There's like nothing to it. But clearly he was just saving his energy because he'd come on the podcast and he was gold. So you never can tell.
Switched it on.
He just switched it on. It was like, oh my God, that was amazing. But it's always Jeopardy. It's always Jeopardy. Like the tour we just did now, there were certain places that you go to, and you got to look after all like 45 people, and you walk into a room, and you take into this really cool place. It was RAF Rougham, and the guy, bless him, who was the volunteer there, wasn't much of a guide or a speaker. So the whole tour was starting to go imploding, and people getting bored and wandering off and having a cigarette. And this old timer turns up by the name of Cliff, who was 12 years old, and sort of in and living around the base during when the real masters of the air guys were fighting rather than filming. And he was mesmeric. He gave a talk. He's 92 years old. He's absolutely mesmerizing. So if you live and you learn. It's all. I enjoy the jeopardy of it all, but sometimes, like, my old heart is going to give out. But we'll dive a bit more into your podcast. So, like, tell me about the alumni of the people you've had on, because some of them look incredible.
Yeah, man. Like, to be honest, like, it started with a lot of my mates, as I said before, where it was just like, let's see if, a couple people, and that was like practice rounds almost. But I was lucky because I had, well, like George Mackay was my first guest, but that was because he's, someone that I've worked with, someone I know. So that was a good start. And then, once you've got a few people, I had like, I'm trying to think early on. It depends who you're like into, if it's actors or directors or whatever. But I'm trying to think, like, recently Stephen Graham, which is someone that obviously was in Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
um,
I had on yet.
I don't know, just loads of actors, and it's funny when you actually have to say it. I'm just like, who have I had on there? Hang on, I'm gonna get a list up because
List up.
I
I mean,
I never do it justice when people ask me. I'm like,
am I seeing things, or did I see Eric Banner?
Eric Banner, yeah, yeah, Eric Banner.
That's a good one to lead with in the future if you're selling your pod, by the way.
Yeah, Eric Banner, casual. And he started out as a stand-up comedian.
Yes, yeah, and I did. I think I've seen some of his old stand-up stuff, and
Any good?
it's great. I mean, he's great. I mean, his first major role that brought him to prominence, Chopper, he's just hilarious in that film, and it's so wrong everything he's doing, but
I've never seen that film. I need
he's
to watch it.
Chopper. Oh my goodness, he's so good in it. I mean, he's probably twice the size, some muscle, all tattooed up, and he's like, Chopper was a really famous Australian criminal, like, who sort of like ran the prisons. You know what I mean? Because he was just an absolute nutcase, but he was really charming and funny. And so, like, the guards all really liked him and stuff. And he developed sort of infamy and fame of his own. He's like on TV, and like a documentary made of him, and all the guards are sat watching with him in prison. He's so good in that film. That's stunning. It's one of those, like Aussies make really good films. Like, they sort of make indie films, but with a big budget, that are really, really good. Like The Castle as well is a great film. But he's great in that. How was he to interview?
Yeah, no, great. Like, he had a new film coming out, and he just done a movie with Ridley Scott's daughter. Was it daughter, or it was someone related to Ridley Scott? And so he was kind of talking about the film, but then, like, my podcast is always like trying to ask about how it all started and stuff. So I did manage to get that, but it was quite a short one because it was one of those press junkets where, like, you've got 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, yeah, the film's good. Blah, blah, blah. So how did it all start? You have to kind of like crowbar it in, and all the PR people are watching, going, they shouldn't be talking about this.
Right,
About the
okay.
film. So that one was a bit of a short one, unfortunately. But it was still great because, like, what was it he said? He was saying that with us actors, there's no time span on it. Like, you can keep doing this until you're 100. And, like, the way he said it, you could just tell that he'd obviously gone through a lot of struggle
Mm-hmm.
before getting his big break. And when you get to talk to people like that, and you're like, yeah, we're all there we're in the trenches trying to get these jobs. Everyone's been there at some point, unless you're Tom Cruise and you got the first role that you ever auditioned for, and that was it. And it's just a nice reminder, I think, when you talk to people that you think Eric Banner, like.
I know. I remember filming, I think, episode 5 of Band of Brothers, which Tom Hanks directed. And he's never lost that sort of grounded chat with the guys thing. And we were waiting on another actor who was filming parts of episode 4. So we had two episodes running at once, filming, and so sometimes you were waiting for actors to come over, and
Mm.
we were shooting nights, so we were all just kind of dicking around in this barn, and he starts telling stories about the first show that he started on. I think it's Bosom Buddies, where he used to have to pretend to be a woman to have the
Yeah, yeah,
he was telling stories about that, which were great. And then I don't know, he just starts like the way he's talking and his manner is like even Tom Hanks is not sure he's going to work again. And I'm like, aren't you booked up for the next 15? Do you know what I mean? He's still got that
mm,
neuroses, and he's still got the sort of like I don't know, slight imposter syndrome or anything. And he told a great story, and like I don't know, like because of his lack of ego, he told this great story about filming Forrest Gump, where he turned up one day and he had a stinking horrible cold. So he's all snivelly, and he goes to see Robert Zemeckis. It's when they're filming in the stadium, and
mm,
Robert Zemeckis is way up in the bleachers, and so he goes all the way up there with this like he's hoping Zemeckis is going to tell him to go home. But he's just a hired actor to Zemeckis. He doesn't care. He's Tom Hanks, so he's like, he gets right up there, and Zemeckis goes like, "You got a cold?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, I do." And he goes, "That's a shame, because you about to do a shit ton of running."
mm.
Run, Forest, run, Forest, like all day. And
Oh my God.
right at the end of the day, he films the scene um, where he's playing ping pong, and someone comes in and says he's been discharged from the army, and he says, "I can't play ping pong no more." But his voice had totally gone, but they kept it in the movie. And like I don't know, like I just think I don't think you ever. My point being, you don't ever lose that
Mm,
like imposter syndrome. That's like I don't really belong here. That's like am I good enough
mm,
thing. Even if you are consistently working, but if you're struggling to sort of getting your foot in the door in places, you have that as well.
mm.
Um, and so what I guess what is who or what was the best piece of advice that you got other than stay in the ring?
That's quite a common one. But
Yeah.
in terms of like advice from because we've had a few casting directors on, and that's
Well,
one that you want to listen closely to what their advice is. And quite fairly recently, actually, we did a episode with Des Hamilton,
oh,
um,
was that the Scott?
Scottish, yeah, Scottish
He's
casting director.
wicked. Love that guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
His
He's
story.
enough.
Yeah. You know his story as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's crazy.
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
like,
but yeah.
yeah, he told his story on the podcast, and I kind of I'd heard it before through because I'd worked with Tommy Flanagan, who he grew up with,
Yeah.
and I'd heard the story through him, and then when he was telling the story in the podcast, like that he went through some hard times, and even at the best parts of his career, it was like he was almost threw it all away, and yeah, he's like he's a real one, but his advice was odd because it was about self tapes, and he was just like when you do a self tape you want to stand out. So, when you do the tape and all these things make sense, you're kind of like, oh yeah, no, that doesn't make sense, but I wouldn't have necessarily thought of it. He said, don't everyone sits in the middle of the screen like me and you are right now. You're doing your tape, you're in the center, you know. He's like, be off to the side or like come in and don't take the center of the screen straight away. Also, don't speak. Like, let them look at you before you speak for a good like 3 or 4 seconds, and like just little tidbits like that. But the main thing he said, he was like, a lot of actors do tapes and they just seem like they're like, fucking just oh yeah, I'll do another take, and they seem like wound up by it, which it can be very easily done. And he was just saying that just give yourself a full afternoon. Don't tell yourself you're going to do it in an hour.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that's going to happen, and if it does, it's probably not going to be very good. Just give yourself enough time. Take the pressure off. His words were, "Don't debase yourself. Just give yourself that afternoon and do any tape as if it's Shakespeare. Like prep for it like it's Shakespeare. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's 1 or 2 lines, be prepared because otherwise, what are you doing if you're not going in and doing the tape prepared? But it seems simple and it seems obvious,
Yeah.
but when you put it all together, like I did a tape pretty much straight after speaking to him, and he was like, "If you don't get a call back for this, I'm gonna buy you some trainers."
Wait,
I never chased him up for it. I actually did. I got a call back for it, so I was like, but next time I see him, I'll be like, Des, it worked. The advice worked. But yeah, there were other little bits that he went on about, but anyone that wants to know that, they'll have to listen to the episode, won't they?
they will indeed. Yeah, self-tapes are an interesting one. I
Mm.
It's probably generational because like, I stopped acting about 10 years ago, and one of the reasons, other than I said I would always stop when I was 40, was it was all the self-tapes. They would drive me mad. And I just felt like I was talking to myself. It's like that the Bukowski thing where he just imagines sending off his work and then people laughing at it, putting it in a bin. Um, and I actually spent some time out in Los Angeles working with this guy who had like a little self-tape studio, and he just kept saying, "Stick at it, man. Your stuff's really good. You're going to get something." But I felt so down because of it, because I wasn't in a room.
Mm.
And I think if I were to maybe go back and start doing some auditioning again now, I don't think I'd be quite as horrified by self tapes as I used to be. Probably the reason that you're saying that if you can, one of the things about acting is that like it's a big deal to get an audition. It was a big deal to go into London. It was a big deal to go into see Des Hamilton or whoever do your audition. It felt like you'd done something. It felt like you achieved. It felt like I'm in there and I can, charm the people and do this and do that. And if you don't have that, like that weird shot of adrenaline that sort of keeps you going is taken out completely.
Yeah, 100%.
But if you ignore that and you actually just focus on the work, there's a huge scope for you to do good stuff if you invest in yourself. If you invest in like you've got a green screen, now you've put the weird set from Star Wars in the background. But if you have that and you have the decent lighting, and like if you've got some long suffering person in your life that reads lines off stage to you and all the rest of it, and you don't feel like you're going mad doing it, then it is a good thing. I mean, I do know actors that have done really well from self tapes. Um, I actually did. I've told this story loads of times. I'm going to bore the listeners. I did the self tape with Charlie Heaton for Stranger Things. It was a mate of mine run a self tape studio. People would come through, and mostly they were crap. Do you know what I mean? It felt like they were going into a kind of B grade audition that they didn't want to do because it was a self tape, and they were just reading it. And he came in and he just smashed it. And I was like, this kid's going somewhere, which turned out but he was brilliant. I mean, he'd done the work. He was absolutely brilliant. So I think if you'd, because when I started, it was only auditions. Do you know what I mean? And then self tape started to come in, and it started to like put people's noses out of shape. I see people, actors I know now, bitching about, who've got quite good profiles, bitching about self tapes. But if you've not had that, if you're just starting out now and then you just get the script and you get your time and you can do it by yourself, it might actually be a really good thing to do. All it means is that they're throwing the net wider, which has two meanings. It means more people are going to get seen, but there's more chance that you're going to get seen as well. I mean, you'd rather do a self tape and just not be seen than just bringing the same 10 people into the room.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how it changed because when I started, it was all in the room stuff. So it is a weird thing that you kind of suddenly have to get used to. And now because of COVID, like I mean, that was the death of going in the room. I think I've been
Yeah.
in twice since since COVID. So it's like it's completely changed, man. I'm interested to know, like, working on like Band of Brothers, like, it's such a. I mean, that's going to be something that goes down in history. It's always going to be people are always going to go back and watch that. It's iconic. What was that like? Getting that role, like going in and auditioning, I presume, and then getting that and being like, holy shit. Because I guess you must have known it was Spielberg, Tom Hanks, everything else.
No, I didn't. I so I it's a fun story actually. So I was in this kids show, and they were just about to do the fourth season of it, this Nickelodeon show. And I just in the interim between season 3 and season 4, because I'd done this movie, and in the movie I was like, all right, I'm not going back to do kids TV anymore. I'm somebody else now, which is ridiculous. So I went into the production office and I said, I'm not going to do the full season with nothing. I had nothing to back me up on. I had nothing to fall back on at all, other than
Just a feeling.
just other than a massive ego, just on this indie movie that I still have never made any money from. Um, and I walked out and thought, was that a good idea? And I had a pager, like a green pager. And it's like, hello, darling, could you call Jan Evans? So I called my agent, and it was the audition for Band of Brothers. And years ago, it was the same casting director that cast the indie movie that I'd done. But he didn't like me. He was like, I don't know why I brought you in. I think you're a snotty little shit. But because I'd done this movie for his mate, he gave me a crack at doing Band of Brothers. And I did. The casting process was you basically went in and read the same thing that everybody else read, which was actually for Lieutenant Jones, which Colin Hanks got in the end. Don't know how he got that role. And so I read that, and then it was the callbacks on that were nuts. Talk about wanting to be called back. I think it was called back about 10 times in total, but it was just for one. It was for a role called Dietrich, who was in episode 1. It got completely cut. They totally reshot episode 1. And they were interested in me doing it. And then there was a bit of that when I did something, and they said, "Do you want to read for this other part instead?" And I was like, no, well, actually, I missed a bit out. On about the 5th audition, I just fell completely flat, and I thought I completely ruined it. And I remember going to the gym and just running uphill for like 20 minutes, like, you idiot, you've ruined it. But they did call me back the next day, even, and the cast director was like, I went to bat for you on this. They didn't think you were very good. But yeah, so then they did this, and they were saying, "Do you want to read for this other part? It's in it more." And I was like, "No, just give me that one. Just give me anything, please." And they gave me a script, and I went to what was then Borders Bookstore on Oxford Street, and I sat in the toilet, and I read because they said you can come back tomorrow. So I'm not coming back tomorrow. I'm coming back today. I'll come back at the end of today. I'm not coming back anymore. Read it. Went in, and just did it. And then I walked out, and the cast director was following me. It's like, darn, they loved you. And I kind of knew I'd probably gotten it then, but like I was more exhausted than like high on adrenaline because I'd just been going back and back and back and back. And I found out like the next day that
Quick.
I just had to go to boot camp, and I didn't know anything about it. I just thought it's like I didn't really know anything about it. And so I got to just had to go. I was just sent on a bus to boot camp, and then I learned that Tom Hanks was in it and all this stuff. And it was I was just like, it was more when I first got the first day of filming. That scene in Usual Suspects when like he's under the car and he comes out and there's like 15 cops there, and he's like, "Sure you brought enough guys?" That's what I remember the first day of filming. Like, "You sure you brought enough guys here?" There was like 1,000 people behind the camera, like people involved in all manner of production. And it was then it took about the first month of filming for it to sink in how big a scope it was. Just all manner of stuff, like taking the train from the boat into Oldbourne. All those, we were filming and there was a steam train they'd gotten from somewhere, and it was just incredible for just a whole year, just absolutely incredible. It was sounds like it sounds dumb, but it was like being in a movie. Do you know what I mean? Like one that you imagine, like you just put into a movie of my own imagining because heard anyway. Yeah, it was incredible. Uh, yeah, there's not a lot of days that go by when I'm either not reminded of it or I don't think about it in some way, or there's a WhatsApp chain that I've had to mute because the guys are idiots. They just text one another all the time, but it is a huge part of my life now. I went away from it for a while, went away from acting and stuff in the mid 2010, something like that. And then when I got back into it about 2018, doing these tours and stuff, that's when I realized just how big a sort of world it's become, and how many people are invested in it, and have gone off and done their own stuff, and everyone always references it, and it's a good way to get people on the podcast. that's
That's so cool to be part of something like that. And is there a slight, because I know that a very much smaller scale, but I did a film called Northern Soul that has, just because the Northern Soul movement is a big thing and people still to this day they go to all-nighters and things like that. When I did the film, it was like a great experience. It was brilliant. But once we finished, I was ready to move on and do other roles and things like that. And it because it did well and people liked the film, which is more than you can ask for anything that you do. But people then always brought it up, always talked about it, and there was a kind of almost a point where I was like, "Oh yeah, but I've done this other thing, or I've done this," or and it. Did you ever have that with Band of Brothers? Because it's such a huge thing. Was there almost? It's not a resentment because that's too strong a word, but you're like that. Yeah, it was great, but I want to move on and do this other thing, or I want people to know me for other stuff as well. Was there any of that kind of frustration, or?
Yes and no. You get people reaching out for you to be in sort of their indie films and that kind of stuff because you were in that show, and like the role they offer you, this I'm just like, I am completely wrong for this. Do you know what I mean? Um, so there was a lot of people who would reach out just because it was someone that was in Band of Brothers in their show, which is a bit weird. But no, not really. Not really. I don't think there was any resentment like that, because I don't know, because it was a huge cast as well. I guess if you were someone like, David Schwimmer is Ross from Friends, that would be different because no matter what he does,
Yeah, I think that's.
you know. So I think that would be different, but I think for us, especially because I was playing an American and I'm English, and so it was enough of a characterization that they didn't sort of base a character on me. I had to become that character. But if, like David Schwimmer, they've based a character completely on what you're like in real life, then I guess it's tricky to get away from.
Mm.
But no, I didn't find that. But I do take your point. I know what you mean. That it, it's different because I've stepped away from it. I can appreciate it for what it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
was still in it, and I was trying a job, and I was, yeah, but I've just done that. And people just go to love Band of Brothers, and that's all they want to talk about. I
Mm.
think I would find that frustrating.
Mm.
But for people to have the interest in it and interest in the show, and me to be able to do what I do now because of it, it's just super cool.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
do like it. Yeah.
That I mean the fact that you're on set and you're seeing Steven Spielberg on set working, that must have been a pretty like sort of dreamscape. You must have been like, is this real? Like, am I
That
imagining?
that was he was on set a little bit. He was supposed to direct one of the episodes, and whoever I interview says it's a different episode. So also, big guys on. There's a running joke. Ask them in what order Band of Brothers was filmed. You'll never get the same two. Um, and he was supposed to direct one episode. Now there is some people say it was supposed to be episode 8. Some people say it was supposed to be episode 1. We had Mikhail Solomon on, who said it was episode 10. So I don't know, but he was on set a little bit, and he did take over directing from Mikhail Solomon actually on episode 3, and that was nuts. He has an aura about him, a sort of Yoda-like aura, and it's cold, like this, like weird. I don't know, like whether he's I don't know, whether he's operating on a different vibration level or something. But he just everything around him just, I don't know. He's just got this kind of weird halo aura thing, and he's very very he's small for a start. He's small, and he's got the classic baseball cap and beard and glasses, so you can't really see him, and he's very quiet. He doesn't really talk. And if he gives you a note, he does it through somebody else. So they'll come up to you and say, Stephen says this, that, and the other, and you're just looking, thinking, "You gonna say something to me?" Or you know what I mean? It was, but
Steven.
well, if I wear a pink hat, you're gonna know. He came to boot camp for an evening, and he gave a speech. Um, on the importance of stuff, and that was cool. He came in and sort of like, well, there was 60 guys on boot camp, so there was 30 actors and 30 special abilities extras, and they're all ex-army lunatics, and we're a bunch of testosterone fueled lunatics, so it's chaos in this room. And he came in, and there was just like a wave, like a Mexican wave of silence went across the room. Then he just stood in front of us, this little guy, and he gave a really, really clever, quiet, focused speech about what he expected. what the legacy was about, what he wanted from us. And then he sort of introduced everybody. And then Tom Hanks got up and gave a speech that was about 15 minutes long
Wow.
about the importance. Yeah, I know. About the importance of what we were doing, completely off the cuff. I can't believe we rehearsed it because it didn't feel rehearsed, but it was absolutely mesmerizing. And when he finished, you could hear a pin drop, and there was about 10 seconds of quiet, and then everyone just stood up and started applauding. And it's not on film anywhere, and I keep going back to this. I've said this many times. There was Ron Livingston's video diaries, which videos us titting about, fighting, doing push-ups, and doing impersonations until die, but nobody bothered to film that.
Yeah.
But that would have been like #1 watch DVD extras of all time because it was incredible.
And I guess that was right at the start before you'd done anything. It was like to set it up almost.
Yeah, I think it was. It might have been night 1 of boot camp. If it wasn't night 1, it was night 2. Because I think night 1 we just kind of got there, and Dale Dye had begun the hazing process, which he did for about a week, 5 days, something like that, where it's like Full Metal Jacket. You know, there's nothing you could do that was correct. You know, if I picked up this pen, I picked it up in the wrong way. God damn it! Down until you're doing 20 push-ups, and they were just breaking you and putting you on guard duty for 24 hours, so you were just sleep deprived. And finally, after about a week, he started to build us back up again in that classic kind of Marine Corps way. So I think first night, I think we were just having the shit beaten out of us for one reason or another. And then I think the second night, I don't think it was straight away, but he used to do this thing where we would be up at 5 and then running for miles and miles and then doing all the training and everything. And then in the evening, he had this thing that he used to call downtime, which was really clever. It was very cultish in the way that he'd broken us all day and then offered himself as our savior on an evening. And so we loved him more, Dale Dye. And he would stand up and he would talk. He's a very erudite man. He's very clever. He's a brilliant talker, Dale Dye. He would talk about one thing or another. Do you know what I mean? He would talk about what we were going to do, map reading and all sorts of stuff, and the importance of this, the importance of that, isolate and eliminate snipers. He would explain all that kind of stuff, like really cleverly, or he would talk about families and legacies and this and that and combat, and then he would take questions. It was during one of those that Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks kind of sauntered in and gave this speech, and that was a bit like, oh my days, that's amazing. That's when you're on a bus for like the next 24 hours, just like, yeah, man, what's going on here? I don't care that I'm really hungry and haven't slept for 46 hours. This is awesome.
And now someone would have, like, if that had happened now, someone would have got a phone and recorded it somehow, and that's almost the beauty of it, though, that you remember it, but no one can ever
I know, yeah, it is.
see it again.
I'm carrying it around until my mind inevitably falls to pieces. I wonder if I could try and remember it and write it down, but I don't think I can. I just remember the feeling,
Yeah.
the thrust of what he was saying, and I remember him because he's a big guy, Tom Hanks. So he's a big, sturdy guy, and he just commanded the room, but effortlessly. And I don't think he had his castaway hair anymore. He did at the beginning. It was like,
Oh, really? I love that.
I think he cut off by then. So it must have, now I think about it, been at the end of boot camp, because at the beginning he had all his hair in a big Rasta hat. And he was
real then? Was that, or was it like extensions, I guess?
This is his real hair. Yeah. And he literally had like a Bob Marley woolen Rasta hat on, and he was like in a big beard. And we were just thinking, there's a homeless dude walking around the way. How's he got past security?
That's hilarious. I forget that it was, because I remember going to see Castaway in the cinema, and then I remember it didn't feel like too long after. I guess it was probably a year or maybe a bit more that Band of Brothers came out, and I was like, holy shit, Tom Hanks has like directed some of this, and
yeah, and that was a really great moment. Actually, we had a break in filming. We had 2 breaks in filming actually, and I think it was after episode 3, something like that. So the break in filming was a week, and then we all buggered off, and then we all came back, I think, just so everyone could like regenerate. And before we went away at the end of episode 3, we did a rehearsal of the Crossroads bayonet charge. So the guys that were involved in that, usually me and Dexter and Damien and a bunch of other guys, we were called. We weren't let home, but we were called down to this ditch in the middle of nowhere on a roasting hot day, and we were just sat in this ditch like, "Can we go home as well, please? Are we being punished for something?" And then Tom Hanks turned up, and he was going through stuff and directing stuff, and that was freaking awesome. Uh, I remember just he sort of walked by as I'm in this ditch, and I was like looking at him like a puppy dog. He looked down to me and he just went, ah, in that weird Tom Hanks way and just carried walking on. I was like, yeah, I just got that weird Tom Hanks noise.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got to go away for a week. And I was for a whole week thinking, oh my God, he's directed the next episode. But it was very, very cool. Very cool.
I need to rewatch it. I haven't seen it for a while, but it's such a banger. It's such a banger.
Yeah, it's good. It doesn't age. It's really good. Like, it doesn't, like, it just, whether or not it's because of the way that it's shot with the bleach bypass and all that business, but it really does. It holds. You don't think to yourself, this was really good when it first came out. It does kind of hold what it is. Really
Well,
cool.
it's like Saving Private Ryan as well. When you rewatch that, you're like, still looks the
Yeah,
same.
I was trying to
Watched it.
flight to LA. I was trying to watch Penguin, is what I was trying to do. There's some buddies in it, and I was trying to watch it, and there's like 10 episodes. Trying to watch it, and someone in front, like seat in front of you, but to the left, had Saving Private Ryan on. I was trying to watch the Penguin, and the whole time I'm just looking through this little gap. Like, oh, I love this scene. Oh, I love that scene. That was one of the things that I think Spielberg said. Is he said, no matter what the weather is like, no matter what, do not, do not wear any of your own clothes under your uniform. If you are cold, we'll issue you with like proper thermal greens, and they used to have like these like thermal green stuff, and then they would cut a big hoop out of it here, so none of it showed. And he didn't say why we weren't allowed to do it. He just said, do not wear any of your own clothes. And then Billy Budd, who was one of the cadre that trained us, he let it slip that it was during the final battle sequence where they take a stand in that town. Um, one of the special abilities, it was all one shot. There was an all one shot following something. And one of the SA's special abilities extras had a pair of tracksuit bottoms on under his fatigues. Whether it's a German or not, I don't know. But as it ran past the camera, it went up a little bit, and you could see a Nike swoosh underneath it. And they had to reshoot the whole thing.
Oh my
All
God.
shot.
Imagine being that guy. Oh God.
That
Oh,
guy.
nightmare.
I know. I know. Absolutely nuts. So, to tell me about the World War One film that you did.
Yeah, so I've done I've done a couple of war films. I did World War One and World War Two. I like to do, do each piece of history.
Yeah,
The World War One film that I did, yeah, The War Below. It's about a story that I wasn't aware of at all. But about a bunch of northern miners that basically got brought onto the front line to dig a tunnel and try and sort of break into the enemy line by digging under the trenches. Um, and yeah, man, it was an amazing experience. We went and shot it in a field basically where they shoot. I think they shoot a lot of things. I think 1917's been shot there. A lot of other war films. Um, and they have this farmer's basically got all these trenches in his land, so it's all there. But the only problem was that we were shooting it in the summer, and for whatever reason, it was one of the hottest summers. And when we were shooting it, they realized it looked like we were in like Zulu or something because everything was like
right.
baking heat. All the ground was like really dry and like so they had to sort of wet it all down, make it look a bit more grim. But yeah, I played a character called George who was essentially he's kind of been dragged along for the ride. He's a religious character who just wants to kind of go home to his family. Um, and yeah, it's all about him and his little brother, and the two of them are kind of trying to survive, and without giving it away, if anyone wants to actually watch it, but it doesn't end that well for either of us really. But yeah, no, it was a lovely film, and it was fairly low budget, but the director John, who he also wrote it, he, I mean, they had a very low budget, but John did all the special effects himself. He was previously a VFX guy. So to save money on the budget, he did all the visual effects himself, and he did such a good job, man. Like he probably, I don't know, looking at the effects, I don't know how much it would have actually cost for them to do what they, ended up doing. But he did such an incredible job, and he did it all on like a Mac laptop.
Really?
And the film was released to Netflix. It did really well actually, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. But the one thing with doing, period, whether it be World War One or two, I mean, they're all genuine costumes, like from back in the day, and they're itchy as hell. Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. It's pretty young, especially with the baking heat that we had. It was that's the only downside. It looks great, but you're just like they're like sweating. Um,
Not a lot of action needed in that sort of situation. It was the same with the Masters of the Air guys we just had on tour, and if you interview them, that's like the main thing with them, why they look so sort of harrowing, like they're in some harrowing hell pit, is because they were absolutely roasting to death in these bloody things, and they couldn't wait to get out of them. And the director's like, yeah, let's just keep rolling on that. And that looks
the
awesome.
sweat looks great.
They're passing out and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, man. It can be grim, but then like it's when you see the finished product, you like it makes it all worth it. Just even the audience can see your pain, they feel, they're like, that's way more legit.
It is. It's it's a very interesting story actually, because those miners were exempt for having to fight at the front because they were needed back home. But then when the tactics changed and they started to do the undermining and blowing stuff up from underneath the German trenches, they got these guys over, but they were kind of a bit rogue. Um, and they kind of went their own way. They weren't really soldiers, and they were rough and ready guys. So there were some instances of them being shot for insubordination and stuff because they kind of went their own way. But I mean, that is a horrendous task to have to do, to tunnel under a trench in these teeny weeny little bloody horrible tunnels. So who else could you get to do it?
Dangerous that is.
And the expertise needed to make sure that you don't get like collapsed tunnels and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they were vital to the war effort and how this sort of new tactic took place. But yeah, it was the only guys you could get. But they were these like northern miners who, I mean, I went to school and sort of kind of claim that I come from a place called Selby.
Oh, yeah.
Which is in North Yorkshire. Which when I first went there to boarding school, was the pit still open? I can't remember. It closed shortly afterwards, or it closed shortly before. And that is a good place to get your head kicked in, mate. Those guys. Hard as anything and nuts, and you just look at them the wrong way and you're done for. Done. Good idea, one, to not open your mouth, or if you do, make sure you've got a good Selby accent down, because you're getting a kick in otherwise. Proper nuts. And I got a mate of mine who still lives there, and he's trying to get me to come back and play rugby for Selby. Obviously, he used to play for the first team, and now he's like, come back and play for the Fits or something. It's like, I'm not playing in Selby. I'm gonna die. They're just gonna kick my head in just to look on my face. You guys are absolutely up there. Oh, that reminds me. So you had a fella on your podcast called Tom Payne, who Walking Dead.
Yeah, Walking Dead. Yeah.
I got a good Tom Payne story. So
Yeah.
he's quite a unique looking fella, isn't he? He's got a very interesting look about him. He's got this, at the time, he had very, very blonde hair and a kind of bob. And he's got this like
blonde hair. Oh, really? Wow.
And these Wolverine blue eyes. And I was stood behind him in a really long queue to take a flight to LA. And I don't know why. I don't know whether he was just getting under my skin. I don't know what it was about him, whether it was his manner, where he looked. He's got slightly, because he's so good looking, he's kind of annoyingly good looking. I don't know why, but somehow I picked some fight with him. Not physical, but I ended up shouting him at something or saying something to him. And we're wearing off. I forget. I feel like he was being obnoxious about something, but I'm not sure. Maybe I've just made this up. I probably am just trying to defend myself. So anyway, it ends up, it ends up in a kind of a squabble. And I was out, it was like, so we get to LA, and a couple of days later, I met up with an actress friend of mine who we'd done a film together. And she was like, "Oh, well, I'm just going around my friend's house. Do you want to come along?" And I walk through the door, and it's him. It's Tom Payne's friend. And I had the most excruciatingly awkward half an hour in which I remember him and sort of me being an arse to him and squaring off, and he clearly doesn't remember me at all. But there's something there. You can see him keep looking at me, thinking, "I know you from somewhere. I just don't know where." So if you go back to him, that's what that was. I did kind of start at Heathrow Terminal 5 once. Um,
I love that. Maybe it was a power play. Maybe you did remember, but he was like, I don't remember you. Like,
I was pretending
oh,
I didn't know
man,
him at all.
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
You reminded me when you were talking about when we were talking about Saving Private Ryan. Actually, one of the people that I had on that was really great, lovely, lovely guy was Giovanni Ribisi.
you had Giovanni Ribisi on. Oh,
Yeah, and oh man, he was a lovely guy, and I didn't realize he started his own like production company, and
yeah,
he's now doing camera work as well as acting. But he did this film called Strange Darling, which I cannot recommend enough. It's brilliant. And he did all the camera work on it, and it looks incredible. You can just tell like he's been doing it so long that he's been on set. He's just learned from the best. He's got a real eye for cinematography. The film's brilliant. But he was really interesting. He was a really lovely sort of just down to earth, so inspiring. He was a great guest. He was one of the really good ones.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, but that guy's talented, man. Goodness me, he's good. I mean, I don't know if he steals Private Ryan, but he's pretty much one of the best things in it. As that,
Yeah, his little
yeah,
monologue that he has in the barn.
yeah, he's just fantastic. Um, in and amongst all that carnage and chaos, and everyone else is kind of machoing it up, and he's
Mm,
like really said stiff dude who's like, and he's on the beach, and he's like, give me a fucking chance, when people get shot all around him. He
very good.
always thought he was fantastic friends. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the contrast is insane, isn't it? That's range. But
right.
interestingly enough, actually, there's because I've been trying to get various projects off the ground, film wise and stuff. And one of my friends is casting a film at the moment. And she was like, oh, just asking suggestions like, who do you think would be good for this part? And one of the people that I suggested was, if you could get him, imagine getting Giovanni Ribisi. He's fucking brilliant. He would really fit this role really well. And she got back to me because I gave her a whole list of people, and some of them from the podcast because I was like, oh, that's quite a good bit of inspiration. And I was really shocked. She got back to me and she's like, oh, the investors are like, he's not a big enough draw. And I'm
Oh,
just like, he's one of the best actors of his generation. Like, he will smash it out the
yeah,
park.
weird how that works out. How people think that wouldn't get anybody interested, and I don't know. I'm not a producer. I think in the age of streaming platforms, I don't think you need to have a big draw. I think you just need to have a good film,
100%.
good actors. But I mean, if I was flicking through Netflix and I saw a film and Giovanni Ribisi was in it, I would watch it
Mm.
because I know he would be great and different. He's just different in everything he does as well. I mean, he's always still Giovanni Ribisi, but he's one of those actors that's because he's quite idiosyncratic in the way that he talks,
Yeah.
with that voice and nasal way, and he's kind of a bit ticky. But I don't know how he manages to still be that and still be completely different in everything he does. Is I
Have
think
you ever
on to me.
seen Have you ever seen, and this isn't like, it's a brilliant comic performance, but out of the great performances he's had, this isn't like one of the best ones, but it makes me laugh every time. Have you ever seen Ted? The movie?
Yes,
And
yeah. Oh yeah.
he's like, because when I did the episode, I was going through his back catalogue, being like, oh, I'll watch a couple of his movies, remind myself. I'm like, watch that. And I was like, he is a G. Like, not many actors, serious actors like him, can go off. And like, Friends is another example. And do something that fun, like be that funny is insane. Like, he's got such comic timing. When he's doing his dance in the living room, it's like he's giving it 100%. Like,
Enjoying himself. That's the thing. He's enjoying himself.
oh man, so
It was
good.
Pete as well, wasn't he? Is that Giovanni Ribisi? Was he Sneaky Pete?
Yeah,
Drain.
Sneaky Pete. Yeah,
Yeah,
Boiler Room. Yeah, man, gone in 60 seconds. Like, And he was. Did you see this new? There was a new series, The Offer, which was about the making of The Godfather.
Yeah, Dexter Fletcher directed that.
Yeah. Who was obviously in Band of Brothers. Um, yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then Giovanni Ribisi's like put on a load of weight in it, and he's just
Yeah,
fantastic.
I
Um,
think he's a good one to get on your podcast, Dexter. I'll give you his number.
I've, I've had him on.
Have you had him on? Oh,
Yeah, I've had him on. See, you're reminding me of all the people I've had on now.
yeah.
No, it's good. I would love to have him on again though. So um,
Well, maybe we'll do a joint one. That could be our first joint one. As he'll come on.
yeah, that would be good.
I mean,
That'd be
I message Dexter all the time with the most random things that come into my head just to mess with him. But he like it's so funny because I've known Dexter for years, and he's another one with a past. So he comes he comes on the podcast and it's like we're way older now, and I have all these questions. And I'm like, mate, you can edit whatever you want out. You just tell us you don't want anything to put on. I'll try not to ask different things, and we'll be all serious. And you're a big Hollywood director now, and he just comes on right from the outset. He's just recounting these mad stories of the trouble we've got into as kids. I don't think you should be saying this, Dex. I don't think you should be saying.
good.
You ram raided that place in that dude's car, and he tried to kill you, and you had to come and hide in my apartment, and all this kind of stuff. He was just saying it, and I was thinking, if I have to redact this text, there's like 15 seconds of this podcast I can use, just so you know.
I love how he because I had a thing where I asked people, oh, do you have an embarrassing moment like, for actors auditions or whatever, like forgetting your lines. And Dexter went to tell a story and his wife was in the background. She went, "Don't tell that." And he was like, "I don't think I'm not allowed. Sorry, I can't." And I was like, "Oh, I might be able to cut round it." And he's like, "No, I can't. She'll kill me." So she obviously wasn't there when he was doing yours.
No, she wasn't. No, no, I know Dahlia very well. She is terrifying. Goodness me. Uh, she is terrifying. She's an opera director from
Oh wow.
Lithuania. And who's faced down the KGB. Do you know what I mean?
Oh wow.
She is the reason he straightened himself out, was marrying her. She gave him a backbone, but she does tend to rule him with an iron fist when it comes to him slipping off into his old behaviours. But yeah, that does. I wonder what the story was.
Yeah, he did start it, but I can't. Can't really remember. It was something to do with an actor that he'd worked with or something, but I can't. Yeah, I had to cut round the little bit that was in there.
Wonder if it's Liam Neeson. I wonder if it's the Liam Neeson story. I'm not going to. But I don't think that was embarrassing. He told me a few stories that are pretty embarrassing, but I mean, no, I'm going to.
That's hilarious.
And the lady with the revolver pistol, but I'm not going to do that. You're just going to have to
She'll
invent.
appear behind you.
Yeah, that Dahlia just moves into frame. How did you know I was talking about him? Some type of back out. Yeah, no, he's a very, very cool dude. Very cool.
There's so many people from Band of Brothers that you just like, holy shit, like you forget because as you said before, it's got such a vast cast.
Yeah,
Then you look back and you're like, oh wow, there's loads of people that have gone into directing, gone into producing, gone like actors that are massive. Like it's
yeah.
crazy, man.
Tarantini's the one who directed Adolescence.
Yeah. Had him on as well.
Yeah, good. Do you know what? He's never come on mine. He was.
Ah,
It was going to have COVID. He's a fascinating study in that because he was a very pretty boy, so he came out of band, and then there was definitely a BFI film that they put a lot of money into him, and he was the star of that, and it never kind of really took off. And then he stopped acting, became a chef for years. He was like a top chef.
yeah.
Stuff from, and then him and Bart Rasputin were doing these like indie gangster films, and he was directing them, and I was like, they're not, they're okay, but no one's really seeing these things. And then he just went and he did one other thing, and then and he's just stopped. Like he got
Yeah.
in, just he
Boiling Point did so well, didn't it, as well? And that must have
yeah,
been really low budget, but it just, I guess Stephen Graham's in it, but it was also really good. And
yeah.
yeah, man, it's amazing how it can just be like, a couple of things line up and it's like momentum, isn't it?
I don't know. I think I mean, I spoke to him about it. I forget when I was talking to him, and I was like, "Did you go back to college? Did you learn directing, or are you like some crazy autodidact? You taught yourself everything?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I just kind of like figured it out as I was going along." Oh, good for you, mate.
He's doing all right. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I mean, they're talking about. I mean, I'm listening to politics podcasts, and they're talking about adolescence on it. Like they're talking about his show and how interesting it is to them. Like Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart are talking about it on the Rest Is Politics podcast. It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I need to watch it. I haven't seen it yet, but I annoyingly when I because I had mentioned before I had Stephen Graham on, and it was just as that was about to come out, but it was also just before another show he'd done called A Thousand Blows was coming out, and it just so happened that the PR company that I was going through to speak to him, they were like, "Oh yeah, A Thousand Blows is the thing that we'd probably want to focus on." I think they thought that Adolescence was probably going to be smaller because it was a smaller budget, it was kind of low level in comparison, and A Thousand Blows, I mean, it did great, good reviews, but Adolescence has like blown up, and we didn't even fucking mention it. And I'm like, chose the wrong show out of the two shows we could have talked about.
I could have spoken about adolescence on the link in description there. Yeah, man, how these things happen.
You never know. It's really hard to tell. I'm sure you have that with your podcast when you have a guest on, and then suddenly you're like, oh, well, they've just blown up, or have you just can't you
Oh,
can't
the
gauge it.
was so we were doing some Pacifics, some of the Pacific guys. So Josh Bitton, who's in the Pacific, we were doing a podcast with him and a couple of other people, and John Bernthal, so the Punisher, was
Yeah.
going which is freaking awesome. And I think he just got on a flight and maybe he was going to land right about the same time the podcast was going to start and just jump on. And Josh Baton was like, "No, don't worry about it. Just get him on the next one." And then we never heard from him again. That was our one chance to get John.
Oh, man.
That was years ago. It is now. I'm going to strangulate Josh Baton if I see
It'll
him.
be fine.
I'm going back to where he lives. I'm going to LA tomorrow, and he lives in Echo Park where I'm staying. So I'm going to find him and
Fine.
strangulate him for that.
Oh man, it's the near misses that are painful, isn't it? It's just
I know that's what keeps us going. Keeps us going.
I had one the other day that I was just like it was just sod's law basically. It was that new film Robert De Niro's done where he plays two gangsters in
Yeah,
it.
I've seen what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was meant to have Barry Levinson, the director, and then a producer who I've forgotten his name, but the producer that did all the Rocky movies and stuff, and then also Robert De Niro on the podcast. And it was gonna happen. It was all happening. And then the film got badly reviewed.
It is.
Barry Levinson never came to London to do any press.
Oh no.
Robert De Niro's then was doing all of the press, so it narrowed down to like the BBC and the Guardian. They were chatting to him basically, and so I just got "Whoof." and then yeah, the producer was the only one left, and then in the end they were like, yeah, no, there's not enough time. Like they cut right down on that. I was like, fuck. A week ago I had all three of them coming on, like going in person to have them on the podcast, and then literally within days it was all over, and you're like, what could have been? It's just yeah, frustrating.
Well, you're on the podcast now, so
Yeah, man.
in
It's
a minute, man. But there's just something I wanted to talk to you about, and that is who, when you've had people on or actors you've worked with, have you had anyone on that's got who's brilliant at impersonations? I tell you why, because we just did this Masters of the Air tour, and there's an actor on it called Adam Long.
mm,
He plays DeMarco, I believe, and we were doing some stuff, and then I noticed we'd spread out all the tour groups, and I noticed like there was a group around Adam Long, and it was getting bigger. People were kind of like craning their necks, so I kind of pushed my way to the front, pretending, hey, bye, guys, we'll get you back on the bus. And he was doing an impersonation of Austin Butler, and it belongs in the Louvre. It is done with love. I must say that he's like Austin is the sweetest guy. I love him, but his impersonation is absolutely stunning. It is so good, so good. But apparently he was like, I don't know why, but he was like Austin Butler's cultural go-to if you wanted to know about anything. So he'd be like, hey, Adam, what's this HP sauce type thing? explained to him what HP sauce was, and just it was just so funny the way he was doing. Can I eat your food? He's just, and he does this thing where he keeps like playing with his chin all the time and looking to one side and looking back and doing that kind of cowboy stretch thing. But he's absolutely perfect. And
Oh man, it's funny, isn't it? How, Austin Butler, like if you look at him, even in like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
yeah,
being interviewed around that time, his voice is completely different now, and it's all since he played Elvis, and now he just can't get out of it. He
well, they
sounds like Elvis.
were saying that he rapped on Elvis 2 weeks before Masters, and he just, I don't know, he just kind of like couldn't get out of that kind of voice. I think he'd been Elvis for a year. But the impersonations, is there anybody you've had on that does like an incredible impersonation of someone? Because I don't know, I'm fascinated by impersonations.
I mean, the most obvious one was recently. I had a guy come on, but it's like his job to impersonate people, but he does the voice of Bugs Bunny and like basically he can do any voice, any cartoon voice you can think of. Even like what's that skunk that's definitely been cancelled now? The one that always
Philip Hugh, he was a bit of a molester, wasn't he? As well?
yeah. And like he didn't like he could do all of them. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, like but like he did this new Looney Tunes movie,
Yeah,
and he did the two main characters. He did Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. So he's like professionally being paid to basically do these voices, but then he can do all of the other voices too. It's insane. Like
what's he
literally
doing?
anything else. I've got a montage of it. Like it was one of the clips we put out where it's just he does like 10 voices back to back, one after the other, and it's just like holy shit, how it's crazy. He's the obvious answer. Um,
McFarlane do it. I've seen him go through like different Family Guy characters,
yeah,
and he's just using different parts of his face and mouth to do like Stewie and all this. But you can see him suddenly just become an empty vessel, and he's just channeling them. It's
yeah.
incredible. There's almost like nothing going on in his eyes when he's doing it. Seth MacFarlane, he's just weirdly channeling these voices from his past, where he grew up in New England or whatever.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Peter Griffin is just like every New England guy who's got no filter and all these like people from his past and stuff. But it's incredible the way he just kind of like weirdly sort of like can channel it in.
Yeah. I love it. I wish I could do it. There's a like the only impression I can do is of Arnold Schwarzenegger because I've been doing it since I was a kid. But like other than that, and I think that is what it is though. Like
Yeah,
it's repetition. It's if you've done something over and over and over and over again, that's how it's done. Most people don't practice that, do they? Unless
yeah.
they enjoy doing it. Um, but one of the other ones that I would say, and it was just one quick impression, but it was a really funny story. Jason Fleming.
Oh,
Um,
I've done a movie with him. He's a good guy.
yeah, he's a lovely guy, and he was doing an impersonation of Sean Connery on the set of oh, what's it called? The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Um, Apparently he was like just shitting himself to work with Sean Connery, and Sean Connery was just really grumpy with him. And apparently, I won't tell the story because I won't do it justice, but I'll send you the clip. It's so funny. Basically, he calls him a cunt, and Jason Fleming's like, Sean Connery's just called me a cunt, like really upset by it. But his impersonation of Sean Connery is spot on. Um, yeah, it's very good.
He's an interesting actor to work with, Jason Fleming, isn't he? Because he's like he's very self-effacing and stuff, and then suddenly the camera goes on and he's like really, really good, and then he's like really, I don't know, like you get the feeling he's like, do I belong here? And I don't know, he's very. I got on with him really well. He's a really nice fella.
Yeah, he's been around for years as well. He's been in like he pops up in all kinds of things. You're like, oh shit, it's Jason Fleming. Like he's
He does
yeah,
big
he's a
move
good
as
guy.
well.
Was he? I feel like he could have been in Band of Brothers, but
No, the movie me and Dexter did after Band of Brothers, like straight away afterwards, they had me and Dex were in it. Who else? I can't remember. It called Below, which was like a submarine horror film. So he was in that, but I don't think he was on Band. I like sometimes I read there's all these like Band of Brothers groups on like Facebook and stuff that people start up, and the
mm,
amount of rumors of people that were in Band of Brothers is mad. Like Benedict Cumberbatch and all these things.
yeah.
I'm so tempted to just write no, he wasn't, but I don't want to. I don't want to spoil their fun. I don't want to be that guy. Just keep letting the rumors go out. Well, listen, man, I'll probably let you go. I think it's been a good chat.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah, good to meet you, and yeah, I'll have to message you and pick your brains when I'm trying to get up to that next level with mine,
heck,
with my podcast.
Leighton's head. Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, and we'll figure out a way of collaborating because it'd be really cool.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Yeah, I mean, if I'm about to throw myself under a bus, but because I don't really, I don't know, I do enjoy doing the live ones, but it's as you say, it can be really stressful. But like, yeah, if you're doing anything and you want me to come and like host anything with you, or I don't know, like any way we can collaborate, let me know. And
We try and do
uh,
a live in London, definitely. Uh,
mm,
yeah, if we get some band guys and I don't know, maybe tap up some other guys, people you've interviewed and stuff,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we'll
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, if you want to share any guests that you've had, and I can share guests that I've had as well, if you want, get in contact with them or whatever. But yeah, let us know, man.
yeah, because live shows where I shine. I think as long as I'm not too drunk, and then in which case it's probably getting cancelled completely. So that's being a middle-aged man, I still have certain prejudices in life that I just can't shake because I'm middle-aged white guy. So try not to, you know what I mean?
Can I ask one thing? I just want to,
Yeah,
you kind of touched on it, but obviously, like being an actor and then deciding to pack it in at
yeah,
40 and be like, right,
yeah,
okay, I'm happy with what I've done. I mean, the fact that the things that you have done, like you can look back and be proud of those things and be like, that was it. That was enough for me. But you made a good point. You said that because I always just think you got to keep going, you got to keep pushing, you got to, you can go after your dreams and everything else. But you mentioned briefly there, you were like, but you were unhappy, and
yeah,
that even though you were pursuing the thing that you loved to do and that you wanted to do it, at the end of the day, if it's making you so unhappy, like find something else that's going to make you happy. Because I think a
yes,
lot of people don't talk about that. Like, don't talk about the fact that you know you can find something else that'll make you happy. And now look what you're doing now, and you're obviously really enjoying this. It's like sometimes there is that tunnel vision, and I think it's a really
absolutely.
brave thing that you said.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised. It, like it might feel like you bumped along the floor and made yourself unhappy, but you'd be surprised what you've learned and the resilience that you've now got and the thick skin that you've now got. If you go into these army parlance, Civvy Street, and you go, I just for something to do ended up working with my brother. I was just like laboring in a construction firm, and then after a while, I ended up going and doing the estimates and the sales for it, and I was cracking at that because you know what I mean? Like most sales guys just come around and they, in a pair of shorts and they're dusty and they look like crap and they just, and I would go in to chat to people and talk about stuff and I was that like you'd be surprised there's skill sets out there or jobs out there that really suit actors that actually I don't know it feels like you're being fulfilled like damn I did I earned some money today or I did this or I did that. I think if I don't know I think if for me when I sort of got to the age around when I always said I'm not doing it past that age. I ended up doing a movie and it's not like I didn't enjoy it, but the thrill of it had gone. Do you know what I mean? The thrill of like waking up and whistling on the way to work because it's like, yeah, that had kind of gone. And then I thought, all right, then you need to get out of it because there are people who would cut the left arm off to do this. And you're not so much phoning it in, but it doesn't feel like a vocation anymore. It feels like a job. If you're going to do a job, you may as well do one that gets paid decently, not
Regularly.
actually, and yeah, exactly. Not some indie film where someone's like, yeah, it'll be huge, and you never see any money. So that, yeah, I would, it's a conversation that people should definitely have that just, I would liken it to being in a bad relationship in which the whole thing is just making you miserable. And then it seems like I don't know why, but the film and TV industry seems to know when you're just about to give up on it, and then they'll give you a job. It's like it pulls you back in again, and it pulls you back in again. It's like someone who knows how to ruin your life, and then knows when you're leaving, and then it's suddenly lovely, and then you're just like, oh no, it's great, it's fantastic, and then the next 18 months are hell. I think you need, if you're considering it, I will say this. I've got nothing bad to say about the film and TV industry. It was really, really good for me. And people who I had interactions with didn't want me to leave, and my agent didn't want me to stop. And cast directors that I knew were just like, really? And actors that I knew were like, no. But I knew it was time. So, kind of, not a lot of people get to walk out of things on their own terms. Do you know what I mean? They tend to get carried out and on a stretcher. So I was happy to be able to do that. But if it's in your mind that this is just driving me nuts now and I'm not getting enough out of it, then the world is not as big and scary place as you think it is. I think that you can find your feet doing something else and get some distance from it and think, all right, that was cool. But, and you may end up, there's so much to do now, like podcasts and all sorts of stuff. You find stuff to push your creativity into. It just, it's so hard because, there's always that percentage of you that thinks stay in the ring, someone will come around, and it may very well do. So I don't know if there's a definitive answer, except the alternative is probably not as scary as people think it is. There's a lot. If you are an actor, you've generally got something about you that people are interested in Civvy Street as well. Do you know what I mean? That you generally are kind of smart, kind of instinctive, kind of empathetic, and do you know what I mean? You pick things up quickly. Every actor I've known always pick things up really quickly. Do you know what I mean? A new skill because you've got to learn a new skill for some show you're in or anything. They pick it up like that. They're all really good skills in Civvy Street in normal life. So, like, you might find a second vocation if that's what you want to do. I just, like, for me, at a certain age, I was just thinking, I can't do anything else. I could dig a hole or knock a wall down, but short of that, I'm completely frigging useless. I have to stick at this. It's all I've ever done. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think you're probably bigger and broader than you think you are. And it's, careers, a 15-year career is a long time nowadays. Things change so quickly, and so if you get to the point where you're not enjoying it, if you say this to any of your friends or something you're thinking about or people you talk to, like, I wouldn't be scared of the alternative. That's what I.
No, it's a really I feel that that's a really honest and really sort of fresh way of looking at it, because people are always just like, you mustn't give up, you mustn't give up. But like at the end of the day, like, it sounds like you timed it right and you're happy with what you did, and it's nice to see out the other side of that, because I think
Yeah,
a lot of actors need to hear that.
I think there was an actor that was on the last tour that was in Masters of the Air, with Jonas Moore, who we've had on the podcast, who's struggled since Masters of the Air. And I think he's like really sort of down on himself. He feels like I kind of get him. Like, I've been where he is. I kind of get him. We're kind of similar characters. I feel like with a decent amount of mentoring from somebody, I think he could turn it around. Like, I think he's still got a lot about him. I just think he's become the sum of a lot of his neurotic parts now, because he's been out of it he's not really sort of been working for so long. Do you know what I mean? That it's getting to him, right? And I don't think he's as free as he could be, because he's a good looking boy and he's a talented boy. It's like someone like that I would give different advice to. I'd say, you're still young, you got something about you. I just think that all the outside noise, and it's difficult when you come out of a big show like Masters or Band or something. Unlikely people just go when they're Hollywood stars, and guys that maybe you thought would be a Hollywood star don't quite make it, and then you're like, what am I doing? I think sometimes with a little tweaking and a little sort of relaxing, you can stick at it. And I think he would be someone who's still got enough sort of, I don't know, innocence to keep going, and he's young. But I think if you get to a certain age where it's just making you miserable, then yeah, consider the alternatives. This is what I think.
Yeah, no, fair enough, man. Fair enough. It's
Very,
not
very,
for everyone.
it's not for everyone. It's a tough gig. You got a very thick skin. All right, buddy, I'm going to get going.
Take care, man, and yeah, thanks for taking the time, and yes, love to have a chat.
Lovely. All right, we'll schedule something. All right, but if you jump off, I'm going to do a roundup because I've got to say
Yeah, yeah. All right, man.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye.
All right. That was very
That was
cool.
good.
That was very cool. I am going to just say a few thank yous to people before I head off. Everyone who came on the tour, it was a really good tour, actually. It's got a really good vibe now, the We Happy Few vibe. It's very relaxed and everything. Obviously, I want to say thank you to everybody who came on that tour. I thought we had a really good time. Great to have you. And we'll be planning a new one soon. We've got some events coming up that sort of we've been involved in. I've been involved setting up the panels at the Gettysburg Film Festival. If you're in the area, have a look at that. That's May 10th. And then there's a band panel where sort of I put that together for Andy Biggio, the guy who wrote The Rifle, in Boston the following weekend. Be lovely to see you guys if you're around. And then I don't know if you checked our socials, but I'll leave this entirely up to Leighton. There's some very interesting news to do with Henry Sledge and the Library of Congress, but that's almost entirely his deal, so I'll let him do that. Well, thanks very much. Thanks to our patrons and Patreons and the Patreons. And I will see you next time. Hopefully, Dougie will be there. I'm off out to LA, but I'll be able to do a podcast on Sunday. It might have to be at a weird time. Thanks very much. See you again.